Here's your First Warn Weather forecast first, sponsored by Anderson Collision Center. Visit driveanderson.com.
It's another warm day in the state line, especially warm today as temperatures made their way into the low 80s in many spots in the state line, and we're now sitting at 80 degrees in Rockford, 79 still in DeKalb, 80 in Rochelle, 82 in Freeport and in Savannah, 83 right now. The current temperature in Galena. We do have a little bit of cloud cover that started to filter in over these last few hours, mainly along a dry cold front that will pass later on into the evening tonight. It will not bring us any precipitation here in the short term, but that increase in cloud cover will keep our temperatures a little bit muted as far as how far they fall for the overnight lows. This time around, we're only down into the low and mid 50s with that additional cloud cover in place. That front then settles down to our south, may bring us a few isolated showers as we head into tomorrow. I'll time them out for you coming up in your most trusted forecast a little later.
Right now at 5, Bernie Sanders visits a rally in the state line. His message to auto workers as the Belvidere assembly plant remains closed. Plus, recovery efforts continue after Hurricane Milton. The way you can support victims with a donation drive here in the state line. And fall is here, which means some are already prepping for winter. The friendly competition at this year's snowplow rodeo.
Live from WTVO 17. This is Eyewitness News at 5.
Good evening, I'm Mimi Murphy. Thanks for joining us for Eyewitness News at 5. We'll get to those stories in just a moment, but first, breaking news in Rockford. First responders are at the scene of a rollover crash. This is at the intersection of Kilburn and Springfield. Initial reports are that a truck rolled over. Another car was also involved in the crash. Ambulances are on the scene, but we don't know the extent of any injuries. Drivers should avoid that area as the intersection is shut down. We'll bring you more information as soon as we have it. State line union members joining forces with a national senator fighting for the reopening of the Belvidere assembly plant. Senator Bernie Sanders joined union members for the rally. Last week, Stellantis sued the United Auto Workers Union, claiming their threatened strike breached their contract. The union says that contract was already voided due to Stellantis breaking its promise to reopen the assembly plant. That plant has been idle since February of last year. Senator Sanders highlighted Stellantis' recent profits.
And let us also be clear. Stellantis is not some poor, struggling companies. There are companies that have hard times. All right, we understand that. That ain't Stellantis today. This is a company that made over $6 billion in profits over the first half of this year. $6 billion in profits over 6 months. Not bad.
UAW President Shawn Fain also attended today's rally. He highlighted recent stock buybacks from Stellantis, despite the company saying they're under difficult financial conditions.
In the last 9 weeks alone, when they're crying about market conditions, they paid out $1 billion in buybacks. They're shipping thousands of good blue-collar jobs out of America to exploit workers in other countries.
Just last night, Stellantis announced their CEO, Carlos Tavares, is retiring. He is expected to step down in early 2026. Governor Pritzker issued his own statement on the issue this morning. He said, quote, ensuring auto workers get back to work with higher wages, good benefits, and valuable opportunities remains one of my highest priorities. Residents of Florida continue cleaning up and repairing the damage left behind by Hurricane Milton. Millions are still without power, and rescue efforts from the flooding are ongoing. Official reports say at least 17 people were killed by the storm. As residents continue recovering, the state's tourism industry is beginning to return to normal. Florida theme parks, including Walt Disney World, Universal Orlando, and SeaWorld, reopened today. The Orlando airport says domestic flights and international flights are also resuming. A donation drive is being held across the state line to help support victims. Many local businesses in Rockford, Loves Park, McChesney Park, and Roscoe are accepting donations. Collections will be accepted until October 25th before being sent to a Florida naval base to be distributed. You can find a full list of participating businesses on our website, mystateline.com. Our parent company, Nexstar Media Group, is fundraising for American Red Cross relief efforts. Just scan that QR code you see on your screen, or you can visit our website to support victims of Hurricanes Milton and Helene. So far, these efforts have raised over $400,000. A much-needed upgrade for an essential state line service. Today, Winnebago County Animal Services cut the ribbon on their new expansion. That expansion includes 3 new dog rooms, an exam room, and an intake area for pet owners. In total, that's over 4,000 additional square feet of space. They're the only government-run animal shelter in Winnebago County. One county leader says the expansion is long overdue.
It's much needed. It's a great service that Winnebago County provides for our entire county to really watch these animals here when they're in their care and try to get them a new home, but also making sure that they do investigations on animal cruelty and other investigations that are needed for animal bites and things like that.
Winnebago County Animal Services cares for over 4,000 animals every year. In celebration of today's ceremony, the animal shelter is extending their Empty the Shelter event from tomorrow through Tuesday. They're waiving adoption fees for select dogs and cats. The shelter says they have lots of pets just ready to go to a forever home. Their standard adoption procedures will still be enforced, and you can get pre-approved to adopt online. Rockford Public Schools were off today for a Teacher Institute Day. The Rockford Police Department took that opportunity to throw a Halloween party. This was held at the Irving Avenue Strong House, operated by United Way. The house provides education and programming to local youth. Today, food was provided by Chick-fil-A, and Curran's Orchard gave the kids apple cider. They could also head inside to face their fears in a haunted house. One officer says he's proud of what the Strong House means for the neighborhood.
I'm really happy this thing's in the neighborhood. The kids should feel safe when they come out here to the house and visit us and come to these events. But at the end of the day, it's about building relationships and being a part of your community, being inclusive and making sure that the neighborhood gets to know each other a little bit better.
This was just one of several events RPD has scheduled for this month. They're also holding Pumpkins with Police and a Trunk or Treat. Fall may have just started, but that means many people are already prepping for winter. That includes public works departments across the state line. Today they gathered for the annual snowplow rodeo. The event's held by the American Public Works Association. Drivers navigated a tough obstacle course at Loves Park City Hall, going forwards and backwards through cones to hone their skills before the snow starts to fall. The rodeo isn't just to show off. Drivers say it's a great way to practice for the winter and train new drivers.
Give them a little bit of fun. It's a little bit of competition, kind of between municipalities. We get to know each other and see the drivers every year, and it's a little bit of bragging rights for the year. But it's a thank you and a fun, but also it is training to get them familiar with the trucks and get our new guys behind and driving a little bit and see how everything functions.
The top 3 finishers all got trophies and, of course, bragging rights until next year's competition. After the break, both presidential candidates holding rallies this afternoon. Their messages to voters in key swing states with just 25 days until the election. And tonight at 6, leaders meet in Rockford for a roundtable discussion. They're talking about the importance of federal funding for local education.
It was a warm and windy day across the state line. Temperatures made their way into the 80s. For many of us, the 80s are a far cry from what we will see beyond the weekend. I'll let you know just how far our temperatures will fall coming up in just a few minutes.
You're watching Eyewitness News, your home team, with Mimi Murphy, Wendell Edwards, Scott Leber, and meteorologist Jordan Wolf.
Vice President Harris and former President Trump are holding dueling rallies this afternoon. Both candidates are trying to get an edge with swing voters just 25 days out from Election Day. Raquel Martin has the latest.
Fresh off a media blitz, Vice President Kamala Harris is in Arizona today making her pitch to voters. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is doing back-to-back rallies, the first in Colorado, where he's drilling down his message on immigration.
The Trump campaign is making the case for mass deportations.
End the invasion, to end the occupation.
25 days from Election Day, and Trump is making the unusual stop to blue state Colorado to spotlight the city of Aurora, where he says Venezuelan migrants are taking over buildings.
Send the illegals back home.
The city's Republican mayor calls Trump's depiction, born out of a viral video, grossly exaggerated. Tenants of the building report feeling safe after police intervened. With polls showing the two candidates neck and neck, the Harris team is launching a full-court press in battleground states. Vice President Kamala Harris is reaching out to Republican voters in Arizona.
All here together because we love our country.
Governor Tim Walz is in Michigan.
And we fight.
And former President Barack Obama made his debut on the trail Thursday.
Pennsylvania, we're ready for President Kamala Harris.
Where he urged voters to turn the page on Trump.
That is not what real strength is.
And Obama directing that message specifically to men. Polling shows there is a significant gender gap between the two candidates. Donald Trump has a leg up with young men, where Vice President Kamala Harris is up double digits with women. For now in Washington, Raquel Martin, back to you.
Here in the state line, didn't feel like fall. Temperatures breaking into the 80s. Jordan will let us know if that heat is going to last. His full forecast coming up next.
Now, your first warned weather forecast from meteorologist Jordan Wolf.
It was a little bit of a windy day across the state line today. We saw peak gusts upwards of around 20 to 30 miles per hour in some spots across the state line. Winds have continued to calm as we got later and later into the evening, and we're still holding on to at least some of that wind when we look with a lot of our SkyTrack cameras across the region, including here in Freeport, our SkyTrack camera there brought to us by the Rockford Career College. A little bit of wind off in the distance, especially when you see that flag pole, but a little bit of cloud cover also moving in. This is ahead of our next cold front that will move in later on tonight. Right now, though, it is a dry cold front. Not going to bring us much in the way of precipitation, but we see that front just off to our north right now. It will flip our winds a bit as we head through the night tonight, and it will start to bring a little bit of a cooler air mass in as we head through tomorrow. But before we get there, it is still a very warm afternoon. Temperatures right now sitting in the 80s for many of us. 80 degrees in Rockford, 81 in Rochelle, 82 in Freeport, 83 right now in Galena. Our Weather Watcher Jim on the southwest side of Rockford reporting a temperature of 80 degrees, a dew point of 45, and no measurable rain here for the day today. With that front passing, it will flip our winds, as I mentioned, but it'll also bring a gradual increase in cloud cover. That will allow temperatures not to fall quite as far as they typically would and typically have these last few nights. It'll lead to a little bit more of a mild night for our Friday night football games as temperatures drop through the low 70s and into the upper 60s by the time we get toward the end of some of those games. And clouds will be on the increase, mostly cloudy skies by the time we get late overnight. Temperatures for the overnight lows only drop down into the low 50s for those low temperatures, but we warm again during the day tomorrow. This time around, only getting to around that 70-degree mark. 69 the forecast here in Rockford, partly cloudy skies. A few isolated showers may be possible as that frontal boundary sets up just to our south and another low pressure starts to move its way in. Our temperatures will be the big story over these next couple of days as they will start to fall with multiple cold fronts swinging through. The first of which comes in later on tonight. That shifts our winds to come more out of the northeast and overnight lows dropping down only into the 50s. During the day tomorrow, that frontal boundary stalls just to our south. And look at the strong temperature gradient that sets up downstate, highs well into the 80s, but up in the 60s when we look to the north. We're going to be on the northern end of that boundary, so we will be stuck with those slightly cooler temperatures. Back behind that, though, another push of cold air comes in toward Sunday and going into Monday, and some of these overnight lows will be dropping down into the 30s for a few nights in a row. And that includes some really chilly overnights and the potential for some frost and freeze early next week. Overnight lows Sunday night, 37 degrees, 32 though for Monday and for Tuesday night at that freezing mark. Average low temperatures this time of year much closer to the low 40s. So we are going to be back below average, and we may get our first real shot at a frost or potential freeze. Those alerts likely would be coming out over the next few days if those temperatures and those forecasts were to hold. Rain chances do look pretty limited despite the multiple cold fronts that pass through, especially during the evening tomorrow. Many of those chances remain off to our east across portions of southern Michigan and northern Indiana. Our temperatures, as I mentioned, dropping not only those overnight lows in the 30s, but also afternoon highs in the 50s. 69 degrees on Saturday, 63 on Sunday, 50s for a few days, but not very long. We start warming back up. up by the end of the week.
Nice to see that warm up. All right, thanks, Jordan. Scott's next with sports. He'll join us live from Hononegah, where the Indians and the Boylan Titans are getting ready for one of the biggest high school football games of the night in the state line.
Now sports with sports director Scott Lever.
I am live at Kelsey Field in Rockton, where we are looking forward to another big Nick 10 matchup here tonight in our overtime game of the week. The Hononegah Indians will host the Boylan Titans, and as you well know, these two football programs are almost always in the race for a Nick 10 championship, and that is certainly the case once again this season as we head down the stretch now. Let's pull up those Nick 10 standings, and you can see it's a scramble between four teams, all bunched in there within a game. Belvidere North has the edge at 6-0. Then we have Hononegah, Boylan, and Harlem all at 5-1. No team has come close to Hononegah all season. Their one loss was the forfeit to Harlem in Week 3. Even in that game, Hononegah was dominant. The Indians have picked themselves up from that bump in the road. They have a legitimate shot of repeating as conference champions, but they need this game tonight.
You know, we're kind of where we were hoping to be. We're right up there fighting for that, conference championship, to be quite honest with you. That's what our goals were.
I don't think we've reached our full potential yet. Our passing game can still improve. Of course, our rushing, everything can always improve.
The Titans' only loss so far was to Belvidere North in Week 4. The Titans were a bit overwhelmed that night. They will need to play much better tonight to have a chance. The last 2 weeks, the Titans put up 98 points on Belvidere and Auburn, but those are two winless teams. The Titans will find out tonight how much they have improved.
And you have a young and inexperienced team. You're hoping we can play well enough to crack into the top half of the conference. That's where we are. So we're happy to be where we are. These last 3 games of the season are going to tell us a little bit more about our growth.
We're definitely heading in the right direction. We're figuring some things out in offense and, moving the ball better. Defense is doing their thing and moving along the right way.
Special teams could be very big tonight. Hononegah has been extremely successful at returning punts and kickoffs this season. They had 2 of them that they brought back to the house last week. All right, let's look at the other Nick 10 matchups that will take place tonight. Guilford at Freeport, Belvidere at Jefferson, Auburn at Belvidere North, and Harlem at East. Some of the other key games in the area include Stoneman Valley at Genoa Kingston, Rockford Lutheran at North Boone, Lena Winslow at EPC, and Canelan at Rochelle. Well, all the highlights tonight on Overtime on Fox 39. Overtime should begin right at 10:30, following Fox's coverage of the Padres-Dodgers playoff game and postgame. That's sports from Hononegah. We'll be right back.
A little bit of a cool down as we head through the night tonight. Our temperatures will be dropping back down only into the 50s, though. A big difference from the last few nights in the 40s, but a bigger change for those afternoon highs. Down in the 60s Saturday and Sunday, 50s Monday and Tuesday. Overnight lows down near freezing Monday and Tuesday nights.
All right, thanks, Jordan, and thanks for watching. We'll see you at 6.